What is fragments? A fragment is a group of words that cannot stand alone as a grammatically complete sentence. Even though fragments are common in speech and informal writing, they are considered one of the most serious types of errors in formal writing. Example, because I said you can't leave the house. So the complete sentence in that example is, you cannot go to the mall because I said you can't leave the house. So here are some grammar tips. I realize. Most complete sentences can be preceded with I realize and still sound fine. Fragments, however, will sound strange. A more technical and accurate description of how to recognize a complete sentence is given in the following, but this I realize tip is a non-technical means of recognizing most complete sentences and fragments. The tip draws on your intuition of what seems to be a complete sentence in English, so it does not work well if your first language is not English. So here are the examples. For complete sentence, Idel forgot his keys becomes I realized Idel forgot his keys. Next example, we did not win the lottery becomes I realized we did not win the lottery. And the last example, it rained heavily becomes I realized it rained heavily. So it sounds okay. That was the complete sentence. Now let's proceed to the fragments example. Whatever becomes I realized whatever. Next, rolling down the hill becomes I realized rolling down the hill. So it sounds strange, am I right? In fact, fragments are so annoying to readers that you have to wonder how they could appear in the first place. Shouldn't these errors be so obvious that we recognize and delete them? Obviously, the answer is no. Bothersome fragments still manage to creep into most people's writing sooner or later. Perhaps because some fragments seems like complete thoughts, while some people's complete sentences do not seem to reflect much thought at all. Avoiding the problem, looking for the subject and verbs, keep both of these ideas in mind to avoid fragments. First, every complete sentence must have a subject and a verb. Second, some fragments do have a subject and a verb but still fragments because they start with a flag word that indicates what comes afterward is not a separate sentence. Requirement: a subject and its verb. A complete sentence needs a subject and a verb that goes back to this subject. The subject is a person, place, or thing. It will be made up of a noun or a pronoun. The verb is something that the subject is doing, or the verb is a verb, such as is, that is not an action but is still linked to the subject to form a complete complete sentence. So, complete sentences, main subjects underlined once, their verbs underlined twice, but it does not apply in my presentation since I don't know how to underline and insert this one in KineMaster. So the first example is, the busy executive ate lunch in her office. So the subject is executive and the verb ate. Next, she wrote this story in college. So the subject is she and the verb is wrote. And the third example, Billy the kid was 21 when he was killed. So the subject is the Billy the kid. Next example, Billy the kid was 21 when he was killed. So the subject there is Billy the kid and the verb is was. So for the fragments, here are the examples. Eating lunch in her office. So who was eating? A story from college. What happened? And then the next is an unusual salary of about $30 million. So what happened? And lastly, killed when he was 21. Who killed whom? Next requirement is no improper use of a flag word. Some words, usually called subordinating conjunctions, indicate that a dependent or subordinate clause rather than a complete sentence is about to appear. That is, these flag words let us know that the next group of words the reader will see cannot stand as a complete sentence even if they contain a subject and a verb. Notice how the following examples, dependent clauses, cannot stand by themselves as complete sentences despite having subject and verb. Here are the examples. Fragments, flag word, subject plus verb. So, example, when the next train arrives, the subject is train and the verb arrives. Next example, because her boss was evil. So, the subject is boss and the verb is was. And the last, whenever you leave. So, the subject is you and the verb is leave. So, I have a grammar tip, checking because sentences. One common type of fragment begins with because. Double check sentences that begin with because to make sure that these are complete. You can start the sentence with because if there is an independent clause later in the sentence, as in these complete sentences. For example, because her boss was evil, Margaret found a job elsewhere. And the next example, because the photocopier is being misused, our manager is unhappy with us. So for the first example, the subject is Margaret and the verb is found. And for the next example, the subject is manager and the verb is. The next topic that I'll be discussing is all about run-ons. Do you have idea what is run-ons? Well, a run-on may consist two independent clauses run together. Example, this cookie tastes good. I like that one better. A run-on may consist of two independent clauses joined by a comma. My friend is Amy, comma, she lives next door. A run-on may consist of two groups of sentences combined with too many conjunctions. For example, we went to the store and we brought some bananas and we talked about our neighborhood just returned from his vacation, but we still had time to return home and make our favorite cake, and then we went jogging. A run-on may consist of a group of sentences combined with commas. For example, with winter approaching, I become more anxious about skiing, sledding is going to be fun too. I most like to ice skate in a frozen lake. So to correct run-ons, in run-ons containing two independent clauses, there are three methods of correction. First, use a period between the independent clauses. For example, these cookies taste good. Period. I like that one better. Next, use a semicolon between the independent clauses. So here we go. These cookies taste good, semicolon. I like that one better. The next method, use a comma and an appropriate conjunction between the independent clauses. These cookies taste good, comma, but I like that one better. In addition, one of the independent clauses may be changed to a dependent clause. For example, although these cookies taste good, comma, I like that one better.